We want to do one last video and then we'll have a little bit more discussion maybe. And this is Greg Dolezal on the floor of the Senate. He described exactly what went down. Just to give you a little context, all the Democrats were railing about what happened and all the stuff we've heard about that Debbie's talked about and some of the others, and their little dialogue. And Greg Dolezal pieced together a presentation, some notes and stuff, and went up to the floor for 5 minutes. So I thought this was interesting explanation of what occurred. So
President,
I'm just going to play this.
Yes, sorry, it started playing while you were talking.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to remind everyone what happened yesterday as it relates to the actual fact pattern of law. And a warrant was issued by a magistrate judge based on probable cause after evidence was submitted. Not a Trump-appointed judge, a magistrate judge. That is the way that the law enforcement process works in America. But we have heard repeatedly that everything was perfect with 2020. In fact, I think we probably at this point could trademark the most secure election in American history. What qualifications we use to measure that, I have no idea. But let's go back to what actually happened in 2020 if we're going to have the conversation. Drop boxes invented out of thin air, nowhere in Georgia law. Mobile voting units moving through Fulton County to 80% Democrat precincts, 81% Democrat precincts to be precise. Nowhere envisioned in Georgia law. 6.8 million absentee ballot request forms with a first-class stamp sent to every registered voter in the state of Georgia. Nowhere envisioned in Georgia law. If you count the same ballots 3 times, in theory, you should get numbers that match. But that didn't happen either. Let's talk about the recount that happened. 3,930 double-scanned ballots in Fulton County alone. Thousands of those have been confirmed by the state election board. Governor Kemp actually raised the concerns of the Moncla-Rossi report, and we now know that there were double-scanned ballots. But even after the ballots were double-scanned in Fulton County, did the numbers match on the second recount? Nope. They were still off by 850 ballots. Not one person here can answer the question of how that happened, and that is a legitimate question. We know that ballot images were deleted. We know that test ballots were included in the recount process, and we have that confirmed. But I want to take just a minute and talk about what the Democrats did in response to legitimate questions over the 2020 election. A former constituent of mine, Derek Somerville, former FBI agent, ran data analysis along with another gentleman named Mark Davis. And remember the 6.8 million absentee ballot request forms that were sent out? They had a first-class stamp. So that means if you filed a national change of address form, that was automatically forwarded to your new address. And they identified reasonable cause to question the validity of 39,141 of those ballots that were cast. They knew that 160 people had been registered to vote from a single UPS store. 2,138 people had been registered to vote from one church in Fulton County. 1,391 had been registered to vote from a shuttered 1,000 square foot building in Fulton County. Unless you think Fulton County has cleaned up their voter rolls, today, thousands of people are registered to vote in Fulton County at UPS stores, storage units, pack mails, homeless shelters that haven't been open for over 5 years. The Fulton County voter rolls have been and continue to be a mess. But when Derek Somerville and Mark Davis followed the law and filed objections to those voters, what did the Democrats do? Well, Stacey Abrams sued them in federal court, and they won. not Stacey Abrams, but Somerville and Davis won. Judge Jones, not a Republican judge, ruled in their favor. What have we learned since then about those 39,000 voters? 12,000 of them have been removed from the voter rolls because Somerville and Davis were correct that they were no longer eligible to vote. 9,500 have updated their address to a new address outside of Fulton County, proving once again that Somerville and Davis were correct and those people were ineligible to vote. Ultimately, 84% of the votes of the eligibility that Somerville and Davis challenged were proven to have been invalid voters in the 2020 election. So let's stop this charade of the most perfect, most secure election in history. But more importantly, and I would agree with my colleagues on this, let's look forward to the future elections, and it's darn near past time for Fulton County to clean up their voter rolls.
All right. I thought that was one of the best summaries of what happened. So I see Bob Cheeley is on the line. I just got to give a lot of you don't know who Bob is. He's got his hand.
We saw the FBI.
Bob, I'm sorry. Yeah. So Bob was the attorney. He was the attorney who argued and got the protective order back on January 6th, 7th. He was also indicted by Fani Willis. And finally, that case is over. I know you're seeking a lot of attorney fees for that, Bob. So I think we'll give you the last word today. Hang on, if we can get you unmuted.